We are back, guys, with another Gamers Worldwide. This time we are visiting with the fine folks from Puerto Rico and learning all about what gaming means to them. And in particular, I think that we'll find that some of their origin stories are quite interesting. But anyway, I'm going to not waste any more time. I'm going to get right into it. So I'm going to have each of you guys introduce yourselves and maybe say a few words about how long you've been gaming and what your favorite game, your go-to game is. So let's start with Sally and Tiff.
All right. Hi, everyone. We're Liquid Nebula. I paint miniatures, and she's a dice maker. And I'm Sally. She's Tiffany, but she goes by Tiff every time. Yeah, preferably. Or Nicole. Either or. We've been playing since 2017, but we've been dying to play D&D for longer than that. I always wanted to play in high school, but it never happened. So after Hurricane Maria, no electricity and no internet for at least a few months, it made it happen.
Well, everyone.
Tim, got anything to add to that? Are you good?
Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. Like I knew Dungeons and Dragons like I don't know how long ago, but the miniatures got my attention at first. I didn't even was with her, and I was fascinated on how tiny and how big things you could do with like such a small miniatures. Other than that, same thing. After Maria, we just got into it, and then when she really got into it, I got a little bit obsessed. Just
a little
bit.
Like for example, every time we're gonna create a new character, I just let her do it. I don't even deal with that anymore. I don't even yes, I do roll my own characters, but I always ask her, what am I missing? Or what should I do? Which stats should I dump?
Yeah.
And things like that, because I always have the generic idea, but then she explains the player's handbook to me from time to time when I'm too deep into DM mode, trying to figure the world and everything out. So yeah, she's the one.
And if she's building a campaign and somebody's new, I'll take care of the characters.
Oh,
and help everybody else out.
So I get the chance to just focus on the characters and the story. So she kind of co-DMs that part, but I come up with story and everything else.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well,
that's about it.
Well, I'm diabetic, at least on social media and all that. My name is William. I've been playing D&D since 2009, and it was a way of finding a game that for me was a little bit kind of like playing illegal gambling on the side, like in many movies before, because I discovered through video games. And I was like, that's kind of cool. I want to do that. And I saw in early YouTube, so we have dial-up YouTube, so it took like 2 hours just to see a 3-minute video explaining to me how Dungeons and Dragons work. And then when I finally met a group that they were all hustled in a little corner in a game shop, and they were like throwing dice, and it's like, yo, that's cool. Can I join? And they're like, sure. And that's how I got my first taste of D&D. But it was a really bad experience. Like, it was horrible. Nobody knew the rules. Like, we were not really good at reading the book. So we knew there was a rule book, but we just didn't know, or we didn't have the money to play with the rule book. So we were inventing our own rules. Then when I was studying my master's degree, that's when I have a friend's like, hey, have you ever played Dungeons and Dragons? And it's like, I do remember playing something like that, but it was Dragons and Dungeons, not Dungeons and Dragons. And then, they explained to me that we were just a little bit too dumb before, that we didn't know how to read. So that's how the game is known officially. And I started playing, and I got my first taste of building a character that broke the mold, because nobody expected me to actually read the rules and know how to exploit the system. And after that, I've been hooked on it. In terms of games, my go-to games are fighting games. So I do like a lot of fighting, and that's been like my way to relax, to learn, and probably some of the inspirations for my characters and things that I do play on Dungeons and Dragons happen.
All right, right on. And of course, we always have the very talented and scholarly, Dragonlance scholarly Ashley here.
Yes, it is I, Gold Moon, aka Ashley. Glad to be back here with the Pickled Dragon.
I am always, Ashley's going to be with us as our co-host going forward, and she is going to be finally dipping a toe into Dungeons and Dragons after a far too long of a layoff.
Yes, it's
And
been since high school for me, so quite a ways back. I won't say exactly when, but yeah, I'm here to like learn from all of you masters. So.
Well, I think she's already got it. She's got all the mannerisms down, and you know she's ready. So, but more on that later. We'll talk about more of that later about what we're going to be doing. But so you guys touched on a little bit of something that I think deserves a deeper dive, and that is because I think there have been, since I started in like 1980, I have met many people who have said that gaming has been there for them when they really needed an outlet the most. And so Hurricane Maria was catastrophic in Puerto Rico, and whether our good viewers have seen the news about that or not, or remember or not, suffice to say, being without power and internet or anything like that for months, because your home has just absolutely been annihilated.
Yeah.
After Hurricane Ida, I went 4 days without power, and I thought I was going to die. So I can't imagine what you guys went through.
For us in Puerto Rico, it's actually funny because now it's like before Christ, after Christ. You know, that's the traditional calendar. For Puerto Ricans, it's before Maria, after Maria. Like, after that, every time someone say like, "Oh, new year, new me," you know, it's like new hurricane, new me. That's now the go-to motto. It was really life-changing. Many people that I thought I would never talk to again, like Sally, I did meet her in early 2012, more or less. And it's like, oh, hey, good to see you, good to know you. And then after Maria, after a lot of things, you know, changed everybody's life. Now it's like, okay, so sister, where are you going? Like, why haven't you asked your brother of what is happening? Like, you know, like we grew into a family, and it united a lot of people that you would never meet. And in terms with Dungeons and Dragons, it was really interesting because just like many people have been in interviews before, to tell you that it's like a therapy session. After Maria, it was the first time that people got to socialize again after being, you know, stuck in their dark, humble abode and things like that. And for me, I opened up a game that was to be lighthearted but serious enough so people don't feel like it was a joke. And it was just that. It was therapy. There were a lot of new players. First time they're actually playing the game. And first-time players tend to go with the character that represents them in their whole holy universe. Now those same players, when I play with them, now they're making the joke of the day a long living character. So it changes their perspective of the game, but it united them. There were different people that you would never imagine. So we have like the El Caco, which is kind of like the person that doesn't have a lot to, it's not very educated in a way. Then we had people that were living the life. They had a high class lifestyle, and you had someone that was super shy, but suddenly was the most outspoken person in the group. And just like that, three people that you would never unite, it felt like the Avengers because they united together, and then they fought this big, bad, evil guy that I just created out of a whim. And for them, it was really good. And many people now they keep talking to me, and I was like, I don't remember you, but hey, I love you guys. Thank you for being on that game and all that.
Yeah,
Like-
it was a life-changing experience. Like Will is saying, like we met so many people because of it. Because I was curious about the game. I was hanging out in Mayagüez, which had a new comic book shop, which is Capitan Granuja Comics and Games. Shout out to them because they absolutely changed our lives. Like, to be really honest, I met
Our
my
only comic book store here.
yeah. We met our OGDM, Gile. He's one of the owners, and he's super cool. He's been playing as much as you, Matt, and he's always open to create a new story, have a new adventure, and he's been collecting books since forever. I think he has all the 2 ebooks for some reason, and everything Ravenloft. I think he has everything Dragonlance. Like he has a huge collection, and some of those books he even has like in plastic, and he has copies, like 2 copies of the same book, and one is in plastic, and the other one he just reads all the time.
Oh, that's serious.
Yeah, he's a serious D&D collector, and and genius. For just to I don't even know how to describe that dude, but yeah, he helped me out so much with D&D starting out. Again, Mayagüez was the only place that had electricity,
Which is like 20 minutes away from here.
yeah, it's like 20 minutes away from here. The thing is, they had electricity because their power lines are underground.
Yeah.
So they don't have to deal with light posts or cables or that much. Only in like in certain areas. And if you live close to the river, you will have water. Her
And just
grandma.
a little quick parenthesis, just so we know, Puerto Rico is 100 miles long, 35 wide in terms of the distance.
Yeah.
And I do live in the capital, which is in the far east, and then
Yeah.
they live in the far west. So we're talking like we're both in either side of the island, and
Yeah.
our experiences clearly are different. But we did suffer the general no electricity, no water for
Yeah.
maybe 2 or 3 days, but then we have water. And
Exactly.
the rush of finding, medicine if you had conditions,
Gasoline.
gasoline,
Yeah.
fuel and all that.
Yeah,
Just in
gas.
case.
Gas at 4 in the morning and making a huge line.
Yeah, that was an adventure. Certain people could like get gas at a certain hour. Like my mom, she used to be a nurse. She just recently retired, and she could get a pass to get gas and other necessities. So we were fortunate enough that we knew about that, and yeah, we gave her the keys, and then she went to get gas for us.
Yeah.
But we basically spent most of the time at the comic book shop, and then I noticed that they got a recent shipment, because shipments were also a thing because they were so scarce.
Limited.
Yeah, they were so limited. Everything was coming through boat, and everything coming through plane was only for food, medicine, clothing, and things that are necessities. And then they got a shipment, and they had the new starter set, and I was super curious. And we were talking for about 2 hours, and after 2 hours, I finally purchased my first set of dice, the starter set, and a couple of miniatures.
Mind you, I wasn't into it
Yeah, at all.
at all. By now, the only thing I played was Fallout and Skyrim, but obviously I didn't have power,
Yeah.
so those are my go-to games.
Yeah.
So after she bought her stuff, I have a session, I'm gonna play D&D, I'm like, okay, fine. And I'm like, well, I want to know how to play, but back then I was like really shy. I did not role play at all. Nothing, like literally, I don't know. And I would block myself if I would play. I don't know what to do now.
Yeah.
But it was only because I was scared of role playing. I
Yeah.
felt kind of probably ashamed. I get really nervous in front of other people. Now it's not
Yeah,
the case.
now it's,
it helped me. It kind of helped me with I don't care.
getting yourself out there. It helped me
What was
too.
the turning point for you? What brought you out?
Yeah.
What brought you out?
When you started, and who was the guy who taught us? but still, I didn't like. We played once and it was fun. You had your little miniature that you painted,
Yes.
your rogue, your first miniature, and then I was trying to play. I don't even know what it was. I really don't remember. It was that, and I'm like, oh, okay, he's like he was okay. And then she threw us like years later, like a year later.
Yeah.
You did what campaign? Was it with Ed? Our first campaign with Owlbear.
Oh.
It was like the Stranger
and,
Things.
Yeah, the Stranger Things story. I was practicing DMing, and
Her first campaign.
yeah, that was my first campaign. And then there's a part, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but there's a part where you fight an owlbear. That's not really a spoiler, but we actually have an owl head. Well, it's actually a pillow that is an owl. It's a plushie, and oddly enough, she got the kill on the.
And I got like super excited. That was my first kill, and I started screaming. And then I was like, "Oh, I'll chop his head and I'll put it in my like backpack." And everybody was like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, I want the owlbear's head as a backpack." And they're like, "Really?" And I after that, I got like pumped. And now I role play a lot, and I love it. Like,
Yeah.
Imagine that she was shy and she was like, "Oh, I just stab it and go away." And now she's like, "I'll murder it and then I feast on its unborn children."
Yeah.
And that's
That was basically it. That was basically it. Like that was the turning point for her, because now she has a half elf druid.
I have like 5 or 6
You have,
characters.
yeah, but the latest one is like your most
My half elf,
outgoing character, because she has a half elf druid.
and she's
There's a klepto.
She's a kleptomaniac, and she's druid of the Circle of the Spores.
Yeah. So she.
See, like I told you, at first character was really shy, mostly like her inner self in a character. Now she's just making whatever jokes she finds on the internet, on TikTok. You know,
I love
character.
Are all of your characters like in the same campaign? Like, do you switch between characters?
it. No.
Well,
I make, at least me, I try to make unique characters for every campaign. I like to have multiple just because I want to know how they work, how the races work with this class, and how like I really like to know like how every class works and how to like do complicated magic, and like I still haven't done a warlock yet, but I want to try each and every.
You're still having made not a monk. Monks are cool, but you haven't made a sorcerer. For some reason, for me, those are the most difficult because they have a huge ass table with 100s, and you have to, I don't know, like sorcerer points, and then you have to keep up with track with them.
Monks have points too.
Yeah, for some reason monks are easier for me because they just punch the life out of you.
I don't know. So far, all the characters I've made, they've been pretty good. I'm trying to make combinations that it's not like I don't want to be like the norm, but I've done like Travis's character, which is a
Goliath
barbarian. Like I did that one because I wanted to know how that worked, and I like strong characters like paladins and Goliaths.
Yeah.
But then this last one, I toned it down. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go with like a druid and magic. It's like way out of my comfort zone, but I wanted to see how that worked.
Yeah, so she has a bunch. I have a bunch, but since I'm DMing a lot, I stuck with one character, and it's a he for some reason. I don't know. We were going through a storm, and I created that character. His name is Damash. So every time I'm DMing, I'll put Damash somewhere. I'll smash him into the campaign for some reason.
Like an NPC.
Yeah, like an NPC, or just like the last time I used him with you guys in a one shot. He was actually chaotic evil. It was my first time ever playing a chaotic evil character, and he was an artificer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was the guy that was gonna throw you guys through a loop and take you to a trap. And then he was going to abandon you.
Yeah.
Just because it was a one shot. So I needed him to do just that, to be chaotic and to throw them off their way. So yeah, it kind of worked. He kind of died.
I know.
He kind of died. Last time you saw him, he was unconscious.
He
Like-
died a little bit.
Just a bit.
Is that like the Princess Bride thing, or he's only a little dead?
He's a little dead.
It's a little dead, but I still don't know because they never checked back on him.
We never went back. I'm like, whatever.
So,
because you sounded your horn and then
one of the
came out.
things that we used to do in the old days is we would have a stable of characters, and they would all be in the same world, and you could run multiple adventures, and if so and so couldn't make it one night, if Will couldn't make it one night, then well, he's an integral part of this adventure, but hey, we got all these characters in this other dungeon, let's play those instead. And which is kind of a good segue, because something that I've heard quite a bit about, and you mentioned the fella that introduced you guys to the game at the comic book store,
Yeah.
a long time gamer, and that is kind of there seems to be kind of like a real, and honestly, I think it happens with every generation, but I think the internet inflates everything, every issue, everything blows up a little bit bigger than it would otherwise. And that is, there seems to be a bit of an at odds between the old school gamers and the new school. So what do you guys think about when you think about when someone may mention, hey, I really want to play second edition D&D or first edition D&D, or when you meet a long-time player, is there anything of that rivalry that comes to your mind, or what have you heard about it?
Okay, so one thing to get clear, nostalgia is a hell of a drug. When you play that first taste that you had in a game, you want to repeat it over and over. And clearly over the years, Dungeons and Dragons have different edition, it evolves. It's not the same a Barbarian and 4th or 4.5 edition compared to 2nd edition or maybe 5th edition and all that. And sometimes you miss those skills that made you a god in level 3, level 4 when you start playing the new version. And it's common. There's a lot of people that just want to play right now, so they don't care about the rules. And then when you explain it to them, it's like, okay, cool, let's play. But when you do have people that know about the rules and they like a specific edition, it's also good. It's also fun to go back in time or change your opinion on how some things play. And it's good because one thing that people tend to do a lot is rules lawyering. Like, oh, I read it this way. This is my comprehension level. This is how I think that it should play out. And you're like, it is true. But just as Dungeons and Dragons and the Dungeon Master Manual says from first edition, I'm rather sure that it says that till this day, the Dungeon Master has the final say on how things play out, unless it's, like really, really out there that doesn't make sense. But in most terms, it's fun. If people don't want to adapt to the new versions, or they just think that the new version doesn't quite fit well with some of the order histories, like there was a labyrinth that was in Johnning Portal in 5th edition, which is the portal that everybody dies, that was impossible in 2nd edition, if I'm not mistaken. I forgot the name.
Wasn't
The Tomb of Horrors.
Yeah, Tomb of
That
Horrors.
was the
I was
first
gonna say
edition.
that.
First edition. So Tomb of Horrors, I played it in 5th edition, and yeah, it was a horror fest. Everybody got out of there with PTSD, so we had to find a therapy session later to see how we can revive all the characters that have disappeared in this tomb that is in the extraplanar plane, and we were all having great characters that we loved. And this is how I introduced a character that I loved, but then in game time, she only lasted 2 days. And in terms of real life, it took like 3 years to get her there. So it was a weird mix. But Tomb of Horrors is something that is like the ultimate test, like the ultimate challenge for players that are doing this for the first time. And if you play it by first edition rules, you're not gonna have a good time.
It's
in
a
5th
lot.
edition, it's not a good time, but it's still fun.
Yeah,
First
I've seen the
edition-
comparison, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
First edition is very deadly, and part of it is that characters have far fewer abilities than in today's edition, and I think like spellcasters have a tendency to take very few utility spells and a lot of, you know, explosion,
Damage.
destruction spells. And most of those damage spells are pretty useless in the Tomb of Horrors. But something as simple as find traps or detect secret doors is like huge in Tomb of Horrors, you know. And so and like a wizard may not even have it in their book because they may not even have selected it, you know. But yeah, you're right. There is I think like there's a tendency of everybody thinks that their edition that came out when they were in their heyday is the best edition, you know. And I can honestly say that I've played every edition, and every one of them has like a tinge of nostalgia for me, with the exception of 4th edition, but we won't talk about that. But
That's the one that opened my doors to actually playing in person, and
That was actually
I
one
survived.
of the few editions I saw over here. One of the few, not the first, but the few. Because I saw some 3rd edition books somewhere. I love comic book shops and bookstores and thrift shops and stuff like that. So, but man,
I
fourth.
saw that example. Her first DM, his best friend was
Oh yes,
came here. He's from the States. And he came over and he was just, he was like, "Oh, what are you doing?" "Oh, it's 5th edition." And he's like, "Oh, that's such crap. Oh, I don't like it." And he was like very strongly against 5th edition. And he's like, "No, I don't like this. This is bull crap," and blah blah blah. And he didn't want to give it a chance. And he every time he saw us playing, it was like he had something bad to say about it. And I'm like, it's just a game. Okay, you'll be fine. Everything's gonna be okay. Like, I don't know anything about like the other ones. I'm like, I'm sure yours is really good too. Don't worry. It's just everything has to like keep evolving no matter what. But he felt really strongly about 5th edition.
yeah, he still plays it. You know,
He does.
Like he still plays it. Like he bought a bunch of books that day because he was visiting, and
But I don't like this rule, and I don't like this thing, and I don't like this and this and that. I'm like, okay.
but
That's
he's
like
still a
Jake.
super cool dude. Yeah, exactly. But he's still super cool about it, and he still has a bunch of books, and sometimes he thinks about selling them or just giving them away or something. And I'm like, if you ever do, just give them to me just in case, because I happen to try to collect the books or have duplicates because I already have one damaged book. It was an accident. My friend's cat just
Was it my fault?
no, it was Brittany's cat. He stumbled upon a glass of water. And he went all over my Descending to Avernus book. But it's okay. I don't mind. It was an
Okay.
accident.
But I ruined photos because I used it so much.
Oh, yeah. You used it so much, a page came out.
Because I was doing my my Asimar Paladin,
Yeah.
and since I had like what 3 books just to.
Yeah. 3 books just to make that character. And that's one of your best yet. But in regards to the question, every time somebody compares editions to me or they talk about other editions, the only 2 words that come out of my mouth is teach me. Because I cannot remain ignorant to this hobby and to this game, because it has so much history and it has so many good things and different things, and I like to see things evolve, and I like to know a little bit about everything. I'm a super curious person, and that's a reason why I have every single 5e book. And I don't have to own them all, but I have them all. They're right there. And I have duplicates, and I have maps, and I have 2 starter sets from Rick and Morty because one broke.
That's her D&D shrine.
Yeah, and I also have Vampire the Masquerade. I have Art and Arcana. I have 2 books of two Dragonlance books that I haven't even opened because I'm scared of breaking them.
And almost all the magic cards.
Yeah, and over there's a binder. Wait, give me 1 second. So here, this binder, I have all the Magic the Gathering D&D cards, and
Welcome.
it's just yeah, he helped me out.
So she's
So-
all in, is what you're saying.
Yeah, like
All in.
all in. Like I don't care if I have to play Thaco, I'll play Thaco because why not?
So I got a question. I guess we'll go over to William on this one and then back to Philly and Tip. How do you guys feel that the community has been throughout the years that you guys have played? Do you feel like it has gotten better, remained the same in regards to like in person or online? Is the community very welcoming, or how has that been?
In terms of the community as a whole, it still suffers from the classic problem of scheduling everybody to play together. Everybody's on the same boat. I'm seeing a lot of new players that they're a little bit older, so we're not talking about the college years and things like that, when everybody's like, oh yeah, I got time and we can play. So we're talking about people that have the jobs, and when they get out of the job, they're tired or they want to play and things like that. And the scheduling conflict always happens. But in general terms, there's a lot of exposure right now, thanks to a lot of good, storytelling. We have like Critical Role, Invitation to Party, Dimension 20, all those type of things that make the game popular now. And a lot of people want to jump on that bandwagon too and play it. And just like always, there's a drought of dungeon masters. Nobody wants to be a dungeon master. Everybody wants to be a player. And at least for playing online and playing in person, due to COVID and all that, it's a little bit harder to do the whole gathering in person group. But playing online, every week there's someone saying like, hey, we can do this a week and we can do the next week and stuff like that. And it's really good. It's really inspiring now to see that, at least for me, I had a lot of practice to being a new player guide, teaching new players, new people to the game, make it fun, make it interesting. And I do like that little seed in them saying like, oh my God, we had a really good DM, someone that guided us through, that made us laugh, that made us cry, that taught us the rules and taught us the core concepts to go on and keep playing. But when they keep doing that, they're looking for a new game. They don't find that again. So it's kind of like, it's good because, like they're interested in the game, but it's kind of bad that there's no more people that want to be a dungeon master or want to take the risk to keep DMing and teaching them and have a story pre-made or have it just for them. Yeah. But in terms of the community, at least now, at least in the last 3 years, I have seen more people in my social media and groups that I go to saying like, hey guys, we're going to do a D&D group and we're all have the books, we all bought it, we bought the kits, we created our character, but we don't have a dungeon master. Anybody else? And I have a few chats from the different stores around, and the owners are asking like, hey, can you do a trip, once a week, once a month to go to the store and do a DM campaign for the whole store? And I'm like, I would love to, but since I'm diabetic, at least COVID for me would be really hard. And I really want to avoid that exposure. And of course, there's the traditional scares that the store already has, but they're like, yeah, go ahead, just let me know when you want to, and we can start a campaign and all that. And then like somebody else says, oh, I'm closer to the area and I can do it. So it's kind of good. And I think the community is not booming, but it keeps growing. So we're just going to keep cultivating the culture and the knowledge of the game so people can keep playing.
Yeah, it sounds like a good network you have going there, for sure.
I'm trying to.
Yeah, we're in the same boat. We do the same thing. I introduced D&D to all my friends.
Yeah.
And they got super into it. Some of them bought bunches of dice. They created many characters. And I'm on the like my answer will be the same as well. Like we have different chats with different people. I keep introducing D&D to other people, and she helps me out carry everything.
Do you want to learn about Lord and Savior Dungeons and Dragons? Literally, that's how we look over here. Like,
yeah,
my best friend, she got into it too. We were trying to do a campaign. My brother plays too, so that was really fun.
Yeah.
Who else? Our first session trying to introduce to other people was like a big session with like
dinner,
props and dinner, and then the session. So we're like, we need to buy people with this because it's just fun instead of just looking at your phone all the time.
Yeah. I mean, and to us,
it might sound old school, but it's just refreshing to just
see each other's face.
Whatever I did in Skyrim, I could freaking do here, and it was just like mind blowing. And I'm like, I didn't know I could do that.
Yeah.
Spend hours just making a character. Same thing.
We've made everybody laugh. I have made people cry. I have to admit it. I killed her brother once. That's a whole nother story, but
You didn't
Yeah.
kill her brother, the monster did. Don't ever forget that.
yeah, Glabres who killed your brother. I'm so sorry.
I'm
Yeah.
still waiting to finish I'll start and finish a campaign in the Star Wars tabletop system.
Oh yes.
Because
Yes.
everyone
Oh, I
got
also have
hooked-
one. I have Star
got
Wars.
hooked on Mandalorian and watching the final movies, and they're like, "Oh, you're a dungeon master. You can do a story for us." And it's like, sure. And then when I start reading the group, and it's like, "Hey guys, can we gather as a family reunion to play this?" It's like, "Nah, I'm too busy."
yeah.
It's like, "Oh."
Yeah, it's been like that, but
But yeah, same answer.
same answer. And for being, you know, in the LGBTQ plus community, everybody has been super welcoming, and we welcome everybody to our table. Doesn't matter who you are, you're always welcome at a table, and we're gonna have food and beer. Yeah.
Food and beer. We'll touch on that later. So if you could change one thing about 5th edition, is there anything that jumps out at you that you don't like?
Well,
Ritual casting.
virtual casting?
Yeah, it takes 10 minutes, and if you do it in battle, you're stuck.
Oh, you're
Hopefully
traumatized
you
because
never
of your
do that.
ritual casting.
I was out of spells, and I had to do a ritual casting because I did not have spells. We were being ambushed, and I was stuck for an hour and a half without doing anything. So I could surpass those 10 minutes.
What about you, Will? Is there anything that you would change?
Well, this is all because of my character. Like my go-to character, it's a wrestler named Polucha. And I have had to justify a lot of rules lawyering and theory crafting why unarmed strike as a paladin counts as a melee attack and I can smite people with it. Because if you have a gauntlet per se and you punch someone, the gauntlet is doing the damage, not my hand. So it is a weapon, and technically, if you go on an airplane and you do have metal gauntlets, they do say that's a weapon, so you gotta take it off. Thus, you know, it's only mostly like the unarmed fighting. I want a little bit more development to that, and grappling too. So those two things are something that I did almost like a doctoral thesis on it. I read every single rule, I read every single skill, every single attack to make sure that I could punch, grapple, suplex, pin 1, 2, 3, the big bad evil guy without actually killing them and just take away their title or the religious phylactery like a title belt and go ahead.
Do you wear a mask like the whole 9?
I actually am trying to find a colored mask to wear it too. That's like me role playing the character. Because the whole concept is that Polucha is a chicken luchador. And it's a chicken mask. And the mask is the character, not the person. So the mask can be given to any single thing. Like it could be a stray dog and the dog wears the mask. Polucha is now a dog. So I gotta look at the dog's stats to make the dog suplex someone into misery.
That's hilarious.
Like somebody into misery. Okay.
Yeah, if you look at it, it's like Dr. Fate in DC.
Okay.
It is the helmet. It's not it's the helmet, the character, not the physical being in the character.
Right on. Right on. You know, it's funny because I think that virtually every table, and you were mentioning earlier, the first time you played, like you just kind of made up the rules as you went along. And I can remember in the 1st edition days, because the rules were so unclear back in the 1st edition days, and being a youngster trying to read those rules it made it doubly hard, you know. And so we did just a lot of, you know, making up the rules as we went along. And I think that virtually everybody has house rules going forward, you know. So do you guys have any house rules that are unique to your table?
Yeah, she has a lot.
I
Yeah.
have a house band, and
Let me think of mine. Give me 1 second.
okay, so I do have a house band, and it's no Dragonborn monks.
So,
Because the first game that I ever DM'd with, I had a character. A person played this Dragonborn monk, and they did everything on purpose to almost get killed. And even though they were just being innocent with it, and you present all the red flag, I present a whole rainbow of flags saying, please do not approach this, please avoid this. They just went forward with it, and I was like, oh God. And the thing is that they wouldn't want to remake the character, they wouldn't want to change it. So what I did was, every time his character died, we changed the color of his Dragonborn monk with the same stats and everything, but we'll have a penalty for the death. One of the death was that his arm got ripped off and they beat him to death with his arm. So the next version of the character, Dragonborn monk with only one hand, but in a different color. And they're all still family. They're all the same name and everything. It's like, oh, my name is Jeff. Oh, I am Jeff 2. I am Jeff 3. I am Jeff 4. And that's what we happen. But the thing is that you were trying to have everybody engrossed in the game, and this character was so fun, wanted to be funny or didn't have the idea what was going on. And then he does this action, and everybody in the table, like I was stone faced. I was like, no, okay, you decide that decision. That's your action. But everybody else in the group was like, can you not, please? Can you not? This is serious. Like, someone's gonna get married. Don't try to get them a divorce before they get married. It's like, no, I'm gonna do this. And it's like, bro.
so he tried to make
okay.
a joke, and everyone else wanted to be serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was like a mini house band that's actually open. Like, for me, it's like, oh no, not a Dragonborn monk. If like you choose a Dragonborn monk in my campaigns, it's kind of like choosing like the hardcore legendary one-shot kill mode in a video game.
Yeah.
So Sally, what's your house rule of choice? What do you change about the game?
I don't change many things.
Oh, the potion one is a good one too.
Yeah, I have the potions. I have
the rest time.
Oh, the rest time I do change it, because sometimes to me, when they're in a dungeon, they cannot sleep for 8 hours. I just don't see that being possible. At least if they really want to have like a long rest, they're gonna have to divide themselves between 6 hours. Because 8 hours to me is like too much. It happened to me in Descending to Avernus when they're in the dungeon below the bathhouse. It's a huge dungeon, and you're not gonna get it done in one session, and you guys are gonna get beat. And I kept telling them, you need a cleric because of this and this, not really spoiling them. You need a cleric, and they had to rest a lot. So I said, yeah, you guys are gonna have 6 hours, not 8. I just don't see it possible.
Like the average human sleeps 6 hours. I'm like,
Yeah.
I sleep 6 hours. Why can't I sleep 6 hours in Dungeons and Dragons? So
yeah, so I came up with that one. The potions, they take the full potion. I don't care. Because sometimes I do, I mostly compensate with monsters, because I never, this is a house rule for me. I never run a monster as in the book. I always roll its own stats, or give them a little bit more, or take something that I'm not gonna use. I always do that. And my funnest, and the one that actually freaked out people the most, is that I as a DM, I rolled the last death save.
Oh.
So they don't know if they're alive or dead, like permanent death. They don't know.
I hate that rule.
Yeah, they it used to be it used to be I rolled all the death saves,
But it's fun. It's fun.
because I want to experiment, because I want to see what they will do, if they could get into closer to the character, so they can chuck a potion of healing or something, or they can just cast a spell. And then yeah, they fought over that rule so many times, and it was like, you know what, I can compromise, but I'm gonna still roll at least the last one. You're gonna know if you're alive or dead by my mercy. But it's just to see what they do. Like, I want them to do a little bit more and be a little bit more creative than just, oh yeah, I'm gonna chug a potion of healing, or oh yeah, all my dice are rolling bad. So if their character dies, they don't blame themselves. and it's more on me at the end. But yeah, because I just want them to have fun and be creative and be out there. So last death save is on me.
That's nice. I like that. I have a lot of character deaths in my game, and people get surprised because there's a reputation as 5e as being so easy, right? And hard to die in. And I'm like, I actually got into a discussion with this with Luke Gygax. He was like, you're having so many character deaths. How does this happen? And I'm like, well, for one thing, if I have like a beast, like a tiger, you know, I hate the idea that a tiger is going to attack a party, and if it takes out one player, it's going to jump to the next one and jump to the. A tiger's going to like maul that guy and start eating him, and while they're down, continue chewing. So there's going to be like 2 failed death saves right off the bat, you know. Or if it's an intelligent monster, they're going to know that healing word is a thing, and if they knock this person down and then run to the next one, there could be a something that pops up behind them. And so there's always a double tap if it's a monster with any amount of intelligence. So I end up with a lot of dead characters in my campaigns. But the rule I dislike the most is getting up costs half your movement. Because like if you're a monk wood elf, how much movement is that going to cost you to get up? Like 20 feet of movement to get up. But if you're a halfling and in heavy armor, how much movement is it going to cost you to get up? You know, it doesn't seem right, you know.
Yeah.
So what I do is I always say it costs 10 feet of movement to get up. But that's me, you know.
Sometimes I do it like unconsciously. Sometimes I just prefer to say like, since you just woken up from being knocked down or something like that, you kind of have like a concussion or thing like that. So you can't move, but you can stand, like be able to properly stand up. So you're not prone, you're not crouching or anything, or you can crouch if you want to, but you waste all your movement just to be stabilized, to be like fully aware of your surrounding. And something like it happens unconsciously, and to like save the character from, since you already like have in your guide, like I'm gonna throw the flame breath and he's out of sight of the cone, so he shouldn't stand up and go inside the cone. So let's leave him like on the sidelines there. So sometimes I do interject in between, say like, no, you're still kind of concussed. You know, you feel kind of wobbly from being knocked out. You should stay there.
Yeah, you should stay there. If you try to attack, yeah, you're gonna attack at disadvantage.
I also have severe wounds. So if you take 2 failed death saves, you got to roll on a chart. And it might only be like a severe scar that you're going to have, but it could also be that your left arm's hacked off at the elbow, you know, because how often is the regenerate spell used? And, you know, it's just.
I have jet someone to cast it.
Yeah, you got to find a high level character to cast it. But I've had characters, you know, they got like stumps and they stick a sword on the end of it and wrap it up, or they'll have the peg leg, or oh, your ribs are broken, so your movement's down and your strength is down, or you know, stuff like that. Yeah, I think that everybody kind of makes the game their own a little bit, which is something I really like. You know, it's definitely I've never had a group have a problem with the disfigurement chart. We call it the disfigurement chart. In fact, when I used to run games at the local game store, they would all get real excited when somebody had to roll on it. You know, like, oh, let's see what it is, and they'd be wringing their hands, you know, and ready to see if like their nose got chopped off and now they're hideously ugly, or you know, that sort of thing. There was like a massive array. It's like this big percentile chart, and every percentile chart was split up by damage type. So there's like a slashing table, and there's a bashing, and then there's a monster table.
That's really cool.
At least for my, I started doing this recently, so I didn't do this in the campaign I did with you, Sally. So I'm sorry I didn't work with you. But when someone is about to fall from a attack damage, I tell the player, like, this is what's gonna happen. Do you do like a dodge? Do you try to like move your body so the attack causes the scar? Instead of rolling because let's say like, oh, you got pierced in the heart with an arrow, but when you woke up from being knocked out, now you're missing your left ear. It's like, wait, something didn't happen. Like arrow to the heart, but then I'm missing an ear. Like something didn't happen here with the damage, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I like to do that sometimes. Like, you're gonna fall down. How do you want to fall down? Like, do the heroic ending for yourself.
Did I ever give you a scar or anything? I think I gave your brother
No,
something.
I think I have a scar like on my face or some shit. Like
Yeah,
that.
but did I do that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. I gave his her brother emotional trauma for sure.
And he gave me a scar. I think it was my face or something like that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think I gave you something in the eye. It was a chaotic battle. So
So here's the chart. It's free on the DM's Guild.
oh yeah.
And you know, there's like broken hands, bruises.
I like that a lot.
Your spine is broken and you're paralyzed, stuck in a chair with me. We had a character with a paralysis, and it was a wizard. So they hauled him around in a wheelbarrow, and he just cast spells from the wheelbarrow. But yeah, that's free.
That's so cool.
I had a wizard that was carried by a Goliath. So it was like Chewbacca carrying a 3PO in the back. So you see like the Goliath slam down his hammer, and then just, I don't know why, always, the wizard went after the Goliath. So we had the attack of the Goliath, and then when the Goliath is finished like swinging, you'll see like the wizard saying, and I pop a blast, firebolt. And it's like, why? How does this work?
It's the Master Blaster, the old Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome thing. So yeah, good time.
Yep. I got to carry a Grom, not because he was like injured or anything, but Groms need to be like in water for 1 hour. So I had a cart full of water, and he would be like in the back of the cart.
Yep.
I was a Goliath necromancer, and he was a Grom monk.
Yeah, a Grung monk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That was hilarious.
why don't we push on to something a little well, it's a little different, a little changing of gears. We're gonna hand that off to Ashley. She had
Okay.
questions about a few things.
Yes. Well, there was something that Sally and Tiff mentioned earlier that I am quite intrigued by. That is the mentioning of food and beer as a necessity during your gaming sessions. Is that something that's common? I don't know, like for William, do you do the same? Like, do you prepare a feast?
Okay.
You know,
So
is that something like every game is a must?
So if we compare this to D&D, my cooking skills got -4, and Sally's and Tiff are +5. And after playing with them for almost a year, they invited me and a group of friends from over here over to their house to eat from the Dungeons and Dragons cookbook. So they do have that. And now I'm kind of saying like, oh, I'm the worst dungeon master. You know what? Sally, you should be the dungeon master, and don't worry, we'll drive over and go over there to play with you, since I'm such a bad dungeon master, you know? But yeah, and in terms of my groups and everything, it's always have fun, so you can get all your snacks, bring food, the traditional pizza, since it's something easy to order. And we always had a judgment call before the game of the beer that we use. So everybody had a beer. And if everybody had the same beer, then it was everybody had like a little bit of bonus advantage sometimes, go ahead. But if someone brought a artisanal beer, which nobody heard of or haven't tried before, and if it's really good, then that player does receive like additional inspiration and advantage on some
That's so
things.
good. I never thought about that.
But if it's really, really bad, since there maybe, you know, like nobody in the table approved of it, or at least the smell or the taste, that character, you know, it's going to be disadvantaged all the time. Like, oh, what happened in between like last games if we were in a fight? You know, they just had this sudden memory of a good time they had with some friends that are not the party group, and now they're going to roll badly. So it was kind of like a fun dynamic, and everybody always had the experiment of finding that new beer or artisanal beer that nobody had tried before, or if somebody did, it was really good, and we judged like around the table. That was just fun things to do.
Well, in our case, it has always been like that ever since we introduced her cousin and her husband, D&D. I used Stranger Things one shot again, and
I made a huge feast.
yeah, it
Like
was
a roasted pork, a really nice baked bread, like the whole thing, not store bought. The tarts were store bought,
no,
but it
but the
resembled.
potatoes.
Oh yeah, pork, potatoes, very basic, kind of rustic, and then the little fruit tarts.
Yeah.
Because I did before Heroes Feast came out, I did a little bit more research on what would like back then would eat. So like fruit tarts and very rustic things. And I always, since I was little, I used to cook. Always, always, always. My dad taught me how to cook. And I always watched the Food Network, anything food wise. And then I studied culinary. And coming back from the States to Puerto Rico, all the gatherings were at our house because it's bigger. So I used to cook for like 20 people, 15 people, 10 people. We always
Wow.
had food at home. Like every Sunday, our family gets together. We do we do food. We love to cook. Like I
Yeah.
love to cook.
And my brother is the same way.
Like
Like
he buys me like expensive meat and was like, here, cook this. And I'm like, I'll do that.
yeah,
Like,
that's their bonding.
He brings me ribs, different pieces of meat.
He
but
brought you a tomahawk
he-
once.
He brought me a tomahawk. So I've always been constantly cooking. And when I got the opportunity to do Dungeons and Dragons, I'm like, holy crap, we could do like this medieval theme or something theme wise and just introduce everybody with like meals.
Yeah.
Because we always, even with our friends, like we always cook and then we like hang out.
Yeah.
And we make sure to eat first and then drink. So there's always food and then drinks.
Yeah.
And for D&D sessions, we do drink, but we try to stay like focused and not like get too
Yeah.
inebriated so we could like pay attention to the campaign and whatnot.
They always try to get me drunk when I'm DMing, but it never works.
I know, my first dungeon master, the ideal way for older D&D was get him drunk. He will forget about the HP of the monster. You can just, say that you rolled 100 and a D20 somehow, and he'll believe it. And just say like, everybody gets experience, level up, go ahead. And that's the thing. I love you.
Yeah,
Jose.
not for me. They always tried, and they never got me drunk. But yeah, we what we did for D&D for our sessions when we didn't have them at home. What we did is our best friend lives like 2 minutes away, and that's by car, and that's because we have to take a lot of curbs. And
But we always made sure she's
Yeah.
like, oh, what are we gonna eat today?
yeah,
Like every Saturday, she's like, oh, what are we gonna eat today? I'm like,
and then we'll
we'll
say
find a menu and we'll do something. But
yeah, with the beer, everybody gets their own beer. Like I would get my own beer, just so I don't mix, because when we mix, it gets horrible. We get crazier, but we maintain it to a level where everybody's coherent, everybody's following the game. We would eat before the session, and sometimes we would eat halfway there, because sometimes the session will be
we'll get
so long.
snacky. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get snacky, and sometimes we'll eat in the middle of the session, just have a break, and everybody can go to the bathroom or refill their drinks and stuff like that. But yeah, ever since we got the books and she got even more cookbooks, we've been trying to introduce D&D to other people. And even when we have like some one shots or like a 3-session game, I haven't been able to play like a super long session or a super long game in a while, like in a year. I've been focused more on things that we can do on one weekend because of scheduling, and now with the pandemic, we can barely see each other and stuff like that. Because almost all our friends, either they live in the States or they live in the metro area, like Will, or they work in the healthcare business, and that's scary. So and we do play over Roll20 and use Discord. At some point, I had like 4 cameras, so everybody can see each other and they can look at the maps, and you can look at the food at the same time.
Look
And,
at the
you know,
food,
have a
but don't
great-
touch.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, but it's always been food, beer. We get our artisan beers from everywhere. And everybody gets their own drink, and everybody just have a good time because food and gaming. I don't know, for some reason it always pairs good. It's good together.
Well,
And the fun
my
thing-
whole life has been around food, so that's
And the
the
fun
only
thing
thing.
is that when you want people to actually role play their character, 2, 3 beers in, they actually become that character, even if it's a joke character.
Yeah, we had let's say Sibi Cockbomb. That's Brittany's, our best friend's character, and she's a gnome druid, and she calls salty water water. Like she makes that sound, and she calls salty water water.
Just
That's
because
just because.
she's like it's basically she's like a little girl, but then a couple of beers gets everybody loose.
Yeah, she gets crazier.
Oh, that sounds great. I feel like food and the booze is a great morale boost in general when it comes to gaming. So I definitely agree with that. You mentioned, Sally and Tiff, that you have most of your friends in the States. Have you ever encountered any sort of cultural barriers in relation to that? Like game book wise, community wise?
Not really, because even if, well, it depends. Well, the only thing that actually has come between us is just scheduling and like time zones. That I would say that's the only cultural thing that I think has come between us. It's just time zones.
We're very laid back.
Yeah,
We're very laid back, and our friends are like super close. So I
yeah.
don't think we ever had like anybody say like, "Oh, this is just," I don't even know how to explain it.
Yeah, we know a lot of people. Like I told Matt, like we got family and friends all over the United States, and most of them are Puerto Ricans. Like 99% of them are Puerto Ricans. So I don't think anything from them living in the States or anything at all that you've asked. I don't think we've ever encountered anything like that, because
I have.
I'm super flexible, and I try to put myself in their shoes, and I try to see what they find different, or what anecdotes they might share with me, and I would try to avoid if it was something bad, or if it was something good, I would try to not replicate, but try to make something similar in that sense, or something they can like relate to. And I would add so many things from the real world so they can relate to. And yeah, I think I just keep it like super flexible, and I think that's my best bet, and it has always worked. It doesn't matter where they at, or what new customs they have, or where they're from, really. I just research and I talk to them, and our session 0 is like the most important thing ever. Like we can spend like 8 hours on just one session 0, just because of that, just because I like to get everything together.
I think the closest people you have the trust. Wow. You have the trust to be yourself, and you know how they would react to certain things. But what you do that I've seen you do with other people that you don't really know, you ask like, do you have any phobias? Do you have any this? Is there anything particular topic that I cannot talk about that might offend you? She always does her research beforehand. Since we're close, it's like whatever, you can do whatever you want. Like we're not really picky unless it's just something like super traumatic. But other than that, I don't think
nothing so far. Out of game, in person, in in Roll20, it's been all the same.
Good
No,
experience for you two. That's good.
Yeah.
William, how about yourself?
Well, in my case, I got invited as a kind of from the founder of a Discord called the ADHD&D. So there are people that have attention deficit disorder, and there's a big community. So there's LGBT, all the type of people in there in the community. And one thing that I started doing when I, met this random people say, is there any triggers or taboo topics for you so I don't put in my concept? And there was someone there that was from Mexico. So one of the things that they said that they did not want to know or they not want in the game was a cartel or drug drama. And it was weird because it was a Waterdeep. So Waterdeep does have a big cartel with, Sanathar. So I try to modify it just in case, and I did tell her there's this type of concept. It's not the same, it's not as abusive as real life, but do take this in mind if you want to. And that opened the door, and she's like, no, it's okay. I'll try to play. Everything's okay. And when we got to that point, I did mention it to her before, and she's like, okay, let's go ahead. I'll see what's gonna happen. Everything turned out well because I did ask. She told me specifically what type, and I was like, there's nothing like that's gonna happen, but just in case, the scenery is kind of bare, so I just gave you the warning and move on with all the concept and everything like that. And everybody did enjoy it. In terms of cultural language barriers, since we are blessed with knowing Spanish and English, sometimes we do have player characters or the players per se that they need to find the book in Spanish. And finding a physical book in Spanish is really hard sometimes because they're just limited to like Spain or really Latin America countries, and they don't ship it over here. So they just have to use the PDF to find that perfect translation or have a rough Google Translate from spells that they're trying to use. But all in all, so far, that's been my only, clash in terms of culture, that someone like really doesn't want to have that real life experience because that's where they're living at. And it's been great. It was great because I got to know the person, and then it's like, okay, in terms of your culture, is this okay to say this, that, and move on. Everybody had fun.
Yeah.
Nothing experience that had me banned or anything like that. The group keeps growing and everybody likes it, and that's like the closest that I could get in terms to that language barrier, cultural clash.
Yeah, like we do sessions in Spanglish, and we do certain sessions in full English, depending on the persons. But most of all, we do Spanglish.
Alcohol
Like we're always
the
like
alcohol level changes if it's
Yeah.
mostly Spanish or mostly English or just a mess between Spanish and English. Like you roll to attack, tira el dado, and you're like, okay, so we roll to attack. Yeah, but the alcohol's saying otherwise.
Yeah, women pronounce things very badly sometimes, but it all depends on the alcohol level.
No, but we also do have that problem that sometimes the big English word that they use for a spell, we do like the quick Google Translate on our brain. So factory.
Or we forget the word in both languages.
Mm-hmm.
Or try to say Menzo Baranzan for the first time ever.
So like what the keyword is like factory. So if you play like Ravnica and Waterdeep, you can say like there's a big factory here. In terms of Spanish, factoría is not the word, fábrica. And then we just like, you see a big factoría al frente tuyo, like in front of you. You're like, that's not the word. It's like, shh, just believe it. It's Elvish, it's Dwarven, whatever. Just go with it.
Yes,
That's good.
I can attest to that.
Well, it's great to hear that you guys have both been doing your research prior to any, I don't know, kind of to avoid any sort of conflict. So it's good.
And in terms of having conflict between the game, sometimes it really just falls as a dungeon master to try to see which is the conflict that happened. If it's with you, try to do a middle ground to say like, I do apologize. I did not, mean to say it like that or mean it in a way to insult you. But if this is something that really does bother you, let's try to push on forward. I'll lower the intensity or lower the connection with it so we can keep moving forward with the game. But now you do have a slight idea of how to mold that encounter or what's happening to the next part, because you do not want someone coming to a game and having just a bad time. They're already having a bad time because they're not rolling perfectly how they want it to,
Mhm.
because they think that the game is gonna be all 20s. I'm God. I'm gonna be a superhero. I'm gonna pass everything. Like, no. Yeah, this is almost like real life. You're gonna fail. If you fail, you gotta pull yourself up, and you can do something else to keep going forward. And even though they have that bad time though, but they're having fun. They're totally like, oh man, my dice are cursed. I gotta buy new dice so I can get better dice rolls. But yeah, I had fun. It's like, okay, but your character died. Yeah, man, I'll buy new dice. This is all factory, setting. I'll throw them away. I get new dice. And then
Yeah. Now that I think about it, if you're running Descent into Avernus, you're going to hell. I've always explained that to the players beforehand, because being in a Latin American country, we are like super religious. So we have more churches by miles than any other country, I think. I'm not joking, but things like that. I've never encountered them, but it's good to always ask people if they're comfortable with dealing with demons and devils and archdevils. And yeah, you're actually going to hell in the campaign, and it's gonna be Mad Max, but everything's gonna be bloody and gory and stuff like that. So yeah, we always make sure that everybody's comfortable.
At least in at least the Latin American people that I have seen playing Dungeons and Dragons,
Yeah,
they love going to hell and kill demons, because that way they'll feel blessed, because their abuelita told them to kill the demons with the random cross and holy water that they did not bring, but suddenly they have in their backpack because they got inspired to do that. But if you tell them they're gonna go to heaven and they have to kill an angel, they're like, oh no, that's too much.
That's too far. That's a bridge too far. Have you guys had any problems with somebody saying, you know what, you shouldn't be playing that game? Like the old school Satanic Panic?
Every single time. Like every single time I have had people, at least older generation, that when it's like, oh, we're gonna rather to get together to play Dungeons and Dragons.
I've never
Like,
had that.
oh no, that game. It's like they look at you kind of weird, like, oh, you're getting together to play a board game and all that. It's like, sure, it's a board game, and we're playing it. And I have
Sorry, Will. The only weird look was at first from your mom.
Oh yes.
And she was like, I have never seen you in a book so long.
That's the only thing.
Not even in college. And I'm like, I've never studied this hard ever in my life.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing. I've never gotten anything from this Satanic Panic or any like, oh yeah, you're going to hell, you're playing with the devils and stuff like that. But I've been thinking really hard, because I've never had anything like that.
Yeah, her mom is actually happy. It was like, I'm happy that you guys are just here instead of just out partying and like whatnot.
Getting drunk or pregnant.
And she's like, is that the D&D? And I'm like, yeah, we're playing. and she knows what we're playing.
I went to a lot. I go to like 2 or 3 local game stores, and they're like right near in front of Catholic churches or Catholic schools. So we do have the curious nun that goes into the shop because she heard about the Yu-Gi-Ohs and the Pokemons and the magics, and she's like, oh, this is great for the children. But then when she sees apparently every time that a nun comes to the store, it's like when I open the big demonic book of demons that you're gonna fight, it's like, oh no, Santo Jesus, and like, oh god, no, not again.
She'll start blessing you with holy water.
No, she does like the first across and saying like, this is scary. It's like, no, don't worry about it, because they're like, I always try to change the scenery of what they're saying. So it's like, no, they're holy. They're blessed by Jesus themselves to go fight the demon that you look at the picture right now. They're actually making that demon repent for their sins. It's like, it's Baphomet and they're level 3. It's impossible that they're taking Baphomet down to to repent for their sins. But the Holy Nun is now like, oh yes, now we should have Dungeons and Dragons in the store and in the Catholic school. It's like, good luck with that. But
they must be fans of comic books.
What was that, Ashley?
I said they must be fans of comic books. They're coming in there regularly and they're just trying to hide it.
Yeah, a lot of people over here, they don't know what DMD is.
Yeah.
Like, I would be like so excited in my past job. I'd be so excited. I'm like, oh my God, I'm into this new thing, like D&D, and like, and they're like, what is that? And I'm like, well, you have paper and a pen and you're like role playing. So like, so you're like acting? I'm like, I guess, sort of, but just better. And they will look at me weird, like, but and never pursue the conversation ever again.
You know, they don't really understand the dynamic, right?
Yeah. And there's a lot of people, like, I would explain to my dad, and I'm like, this is what I do, this is what I make. They're super proud of me that I make dice and whatnot. But other than that, I'm like, one day I will get them to play. One day.
I got my mom to play once. Well,
Really?
Whoa.
more than once, honestly. She always played wizards or sorcerers when 3rd edition came out. But
That is so cool.
Nice.
a friend of mine reminded me, I was talking to a friend of mine the other night, and he reminded me, because we were on this subject, and he reminded me that I had a player once who, when we had to choose gods, because gods are always like real important, you know?
Yeah.
And he was like, no, I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. And I'm like, all right, you know, you're toting the cross then, and you're down for that. And it was funny because his girlfriend didn't know he was playing, or maybe it was somebody else's girlfriend, but she found out we were playing Dungeons and Dragons one night, and she tore off. First she called, and then she found out, and she was at our house like within 5 minutes to like make sure there wasn't goat's blood out and sacrificial altars. I mean, she was like convinced that we were worshiping the devil, you know. And I had forgotten all about that story, but she was like physically upset, like shaking. And it's interesting.
When was that?
When was that? That would have been the early 90s, like 91, 92 in there.
Oh, interesting.
I never really had a problem with my parents, like because they were like, Satanic Panic was big here too, but with other things like Yu-Gi-Oh cards,
Pokemon.
or Pokemon, or that was really big. Anything that like kids were into, everything was satanic.
Yeah, it's a different type of satanic panic because everything will be satanic. Everything. It didn't matter what it was. And you could listen to a song. Yeah.
Anything that was really popular.
Yeah.
At least the satanic panic that we had here wasn't burning the things. It's mostly like, no, don't buy it. So
Yeah.
So
I'm not gonna buy it for you. Yeah, too bad.
Satanic panic. So it was mostly like, oh, I want to buy the D&D book. It's like, nah, man, that's satanic. Don't buy it. And then it's like, okay, pass. Okay, cool. But
yeah, thank goodness my parents were a little bit, chill about that stuff. So
mine it's not that they didn't care, but as long as I was in the house, I guess, and I was doing fine, or they knew where I was at, everything was fine.
mine was funny because at first they got a little bit scared with that, but they were the same ones that in the same weekend would call like a mystic so they can read the teacup and the leaves and see the divination and all
my
that.
grandma used to do that.
So it was weird because like, no, that's satanic and that's magical and mystical. But then, like, no, please tell us what the tea and the coffee cup told us. And so like are we
You know what?
doing
Yeah,
the
you're
same
gonna win
thing?
the lottery.
I've always had a theory that much like, like if 2nd edition or my 1st edition, that would be the best one, and 5th edition is your 1st edition, so that's the best to you. It's almost like, why aren't you doing what I did as a kid? That's the right thing to do, not playing these games. Like my dad, he would always be like, why aren't you out fishing or hunting or do like all the things he was a kid? I was like, well, first of all, once I buy the book, they never have to be reloaded. I never have to buy more fishing lures or anything like that. The book is there. And he spent a fortune on fishing and hunting and everything. And he just never got it, though. My dad never got it. My mom was the complete opposite. She was just like, whatever you want, let's try it out. And but it's almost like that kind of mentality,
Yeah, that mentality my parents had, like, go outside and ride a bike. And I'm like, then why do we have video games inside of our house? Like, I'd rather be playing a video game or my Game Boy or Super Nintendo or PlayStation or whatever. And she's like, no, go outside and play a little, like, blah, blah, and go visit your neighbors. I'm like, but I don't want to play with anybody else. I just want to be inside.
Look at you.
Ashley.
For-
Hey, oh, Ashley, you had hooked into something last time we talked that you were going to ask the ladies about. What was the next thing? I don't know if you got any samples together.
Any what now?
Music
I'll remember.
samples.
Music samples. I have tons of it on my computer here. But yeah, so that leads me into a question, I suppose, for Matt, Billy, and Tip, and William. Sorry. So like,
Okay, that's okay.
another environmental type of thing. Do you typically have music playing during every gaming session? Do you have playlists? Is it changing, like when you're in battle and whatnot?
It's a religious ritual. It's yeah. We have a ritual. We play. I try to always find things that match the story. Like last time, I didn't know until the last minute that the one shot that I was running was in Eberron because it was in Sharn. The city of towers or something like that. I forgot. Yeah, but I found some Eberron music, but it wasn't like the typical music, like adventure music. It was mostly ambience sounds. Like you could hear the steam and people chatting and people like knocking on things and walking and doing all kinds of stuff. It was really amazing because I've never played Eberron, but it made me feel like I did. And we always play, sometimes depending on the scenery, I always use Spotify or YouTube or samples that friends of mine have given me. Like I don't care if, as long as it matches the scenery and the story that I'm trying to tell. So they're a little bit more immersed, then I'm okay with it. Like I played raining music and like ambient sounds and rivers and forest and everything,
or just basic Celtic music in the background.
Yeah,
depending on what we're doing. Like if she's talking, like I'm a person that needs music in the background. Like if it's too quiet, I tell her, I was like, it's too quiet in here, and she quickly puts something in the background. I have to have a fan on. Like I need that like constant background noise. And
we did a bar fight and I put
like a bar fight, yeah, but she's always putting at least a little bit of sound. Even if she's storytelling, she will put like a Celtic music in the background, like super soft, but anything to like, at least it just feels right, at least for me. And it's not so quiet.
Yeah, I always start off like when we're talking and setting everything up, I put some chill hop or some lo-fi, just so everybody's like super chill and super like focused on what they're doing. And then I put the battle music when we have a battle, the Celtic and everything else. Like I always pick and choose from everything. Like I even put soundtracks from video games and MMORPGs
and you didn't used to, like your first sessions, she didn't used to, but then after a while, like I needed that noise. I felt like I needed like some music or some noise other than her voice in the background. Like I really like to have like soft music in the background. Yeah, because everything started because we were playing over Discord and everything was a little bit too quiet, and sometimes we would have a lot of background noise that we didn't want, and we needed to concentrate on what was happening because the intense fights were happening. And yeah, I just started working with that, but then we stopped that game because everybody got busy and everything was changing during the pandemic, and everybody was going to work again and going to school and stuff like that. But I took that little bit of Discord music thing that happened one day, and I made it part of the game permanently because we play so much better and we are like super immersed into the story. And even when I'm tired of talking, I just let the music take over and they still get what's going on. That's when I switch my Spanglish to full Spanish and small words. Like super small. When I'm tired, like, oh yeah, we're on hour 5. Hour 8. Yeah, hour 5 or hour 8 after intense battles and trying to explain where they're at. And after the craziness, yes, small words and more music.
Yeah,
No,
it makes sense. Sounds like your preference is definitely for more of the instrumental type of music, something that's just relaxing in the background where you can kind of focus on what you're doing. How about yourself, William? Music? Yes, no?
I do like the music, but I only use it mostly for like big events, so something to really grab the attention of the players. Because of course they do a little bit of the daily dwelling, and I like to find like that perfect mood song. And I become kind of harsh music critic, finding that good song for that moment. And that's why sometimes I do prefer to just find one or two songs and build a scene on it and build a scene based on that song. But in general terms, I at least I try to do a lot of talking, a lot of motivation, and if I do have to do like the traditional like background chatter, so I'll be like, and do like the whispering because you hearing something, and I'll do it. That's like part of my dynamic, because for me, finding the music is a lot of extra time besides the traditional preparation of the whole game. And also, I like to draw out the maps, even though my drawings are horrible. They're like the worst drawings that you could ever see. But I did buy the little the little squared big table, so I draw my own maps, so that way they know which part of the map they're at, so how they move and all that. And I like doing those before, and then the ambience music and all that, just the player chatter. So if it's like really, really quiet, I try to do the traditional like stare down, like this is really quiet right now. So do you have the idea? Are you thinking of the proper way that your character, and try to do like like slow hypnotic whispering to like motivate the characters to speak or do something. But when there's something that I did plan out, that I do have the music, I do have everything ready, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Sally and Tiff, you mentioned the MMORPGs and video game soundtrack.
Yeah.
Guild Wars. Are you familiar with Guild Wars?
Yes, we are.
You are.
I am. I told you about it, but
If I don't hear it, I don't remember.
yeah, I told her about it, but yeah, good work, yeah.
Yes, but I don't know. I would recommend those soundtracks. I'm a
Oh, now I remember. Yes.
bit obsessed with this.
There we go. She remembered.
For me,
Yeah.
I go with the new classic, highly acclaimed video game name, Final Fantasy 14. You got a free trial now that you can.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
That sounds
we love
just too good.
we love Final Fantasy 14, and yeah, I put some of that music too. For battles mostly, I use anime music, and Final Fantasy 14 is also in there. I use a lot of Guild Wars. I use Neverwinter Nights. I use what was it?
Diablo, possibly.
Yeah, World of Warcraft, everything, everything MMORPG I would use.
Now that you mentioned MMOs, I do have a song from Final Fantasy 14 that the whole final battle is just built on that song. I just need to do the campaign to be able to play that song on loop, and people have it them fighting that final battle. That's all that I did. Like I just
know-
built a campaign
I know
for
what
that
you're
song.
talking about. I know which one you're talking about. Yes, I
I'm
approve.
not sure. I'm not sure you know the song. But okay.
Well, is it from if it's from Endwalker, I won't. But
No.
if it's not, well,
Shadowbringers.
then I should know. Trust me, you are one of our best friends. Like Brittany's husband, he's obsessed with Final Fantasy 14, and he has played the soundtrack on repeat so many times. Like, it's crazy.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Ashley has a love of folk metal, and I've heard her play it before. And I always thought that some of that
Not folk
music
metal.
would fit right in nicely, would slide right in. In
Yeah.
the right context, yeah.
Yeah, I have a Blind Guardian shirt on right now, which is power metal, but a lot of the folk metal, power metal artists, they have tons of like instrumental tracks on literally every album that they release. So Tiff, you're mentioning like more of the Celtic type of music. That's something else you could look into. I would recommend Elvati, Corpiclani. I could like type these out or something.
Yes,
Yeah,
please. Yes.
I think it's better to type that out because
Yeah.
it's
I'm
like
telling
me
you,
recommending a
it's
band. So it's like, let me just write it down just in case.
There's a little
We need-
chat function. It'll pop up on the screen there.
we'll do that.
Yes,
I
please,
do have
we
a
need-
question for Tiff. You mentioned making dice. Perhaps you could tell us like where to find your dice and how you got started into that. What led you to making dice, and how much do you really enjoy it?
That's just it's a funny story.
Oh yes.
I've always been crafty. I always like to do stuff. Always. I always worked full time, come home, cook, but I needed something else. I got home, I was bored, I was depressed. My job was sucky. I worked nights most of the time. So I needed an outlet. And she was like, "Oh, you should get a hobby." And I'm like, "Well, okay, what kind of hobby?" So I didn't know. I started looking up on Instagram and I started making slime. And I'm like, "Ooh, that looks satisfying." So I started making slime and I was like, that's not like my cup of tea. Fine. Then I started looking at other crafters to see what they were doing. I bought polymer clay. I went through that. That didn't work. Now I'm back to polymer clay. I'll tell you that in a second. And then I saw resin and I'm like, holy crap, that looks really cool. I'm not a patient person and I decided to take resin. It takes almost 24 hours to cure and so many fails. I bought a couple of molds, just basic resin things like charms. I used to make keychains, earrings, and then a friend of ours, the wife of the owner, the comic book store,
Yeah.
she was like, "Oh, why don't you make dice?" And I'm like, "You mean make dice? Like, how am I gonna make a dice out of,
Yeah.
I didn't know because I've never seen somebody make resin dice before. And I started looking up and I got these like cheap molds.
They were from Amazon or Wish.
They're from
We were lucky
they
to
weren't
find
from
them.
Wish. They weren't from Wish. They were like the ones they actually were from Amazon.
Yeah, they were from
But they were like the cheap stuff. And I'm like, oh, well, I could try. And I started looking up how to make dice. So I've been on it for like 3 years, 4 years,
almost 5.
almost 5 years.
This is gonna be the
Working with-
5th year. You
Working with
started
resin.
Yeah,
And
you
with dice, 2,
no 3.
3.
Yeah, you started making you actually making started making dice, experimenting with the molds 2019.
So I decided to start looking up more like the process and how to make it and how to. So I grabbed a couple of, what was the brand of the die? I don't know. It was some cheap dice. And I went and did the molds myself. And I'm like, okay, I don't know how to do this. I'm just gonna like.
Yeah, that was before she got her master dice.
Yeah.
Because to make dice, you need master dice, and what you did, you ordered some metal dice because they were the only sharp ones.
Oh yeah, because I started watching Ribinator,
Yes,
and he was the one who.
the only guy that was actually teaching people how to make dice.
So I started following him, and I learned what not to do because he made a lot of mistakes too. So I followed him for a while. I learned a lot, and then decided to make my own die. I copied from other dice. So I'm like, oh my god, my first set. They were pretty cool. They were sprue, which is like the little stick. It was very complicated, very, 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 very complicated. For somebody that has no patience at all, I'm still amazed that I'm still here making dice.
Enjoy it though.
After that, I started adding a lot of people that made dice that I didn't know existed. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of people that make dice over in the States, not in Puerto Rico. And they helped me through, and I found somebody that could make my master dice with the logo. And from there on, I've been learning, hand polishing, sanding. I just now like trying to perfect everything, always trying to perfect, not perfect, but improve on. I started with
On your craft.
on my craft, and now I have like a nice logo on my set of dice, and they're sharp and they're pretty, and I have so many sets and so many dice, like everything is dice.
Yeah, we got boxes upon boxes upon boxes.
A fail dice, good dice, just everything. I
So
still
you have like the very first set that you ever crafted still?
I think I do.
Nice.
Bill keeps pointing at himself. How many dice do you have?
I actually I do have one of each type of dice they have made so far. So I do have what they call the big chungus, which is a oversized D20. I do have whole collection of the traditional 7 dice, and they did for a time the liquid infused D20. The thing is that I do love even the felt dice, the one that they say they're not pretty and all that. And I'll say like, I don't mind. I'm a dungeon master. I'll give them the blessing so they can kill people. I mean, help people, you know, in their adventures and all that. And yeah, they have given me a lot of the dices that don't work, but we do have a friend in common that he has bought pretty much a set every time they refill the shop. So every time they fill the shop, so it would be like 2-3 times a month, he'll buy one set. And the thing is that the joke is that they ship the dice to him later on during the year because he buys so many. So it's just better to send him like this big bag of dice instead of, you know, going one by one.
Yeah.
So I started with like the Amazon mold, which
Well, nice.
so
I like the color.
Cases. There we go.
Yeah.
that one, and these were one of my first ones that I made. And then this is the one I told you I copied from, I don't know what dice it was.
I think it's the metal dice.
No, this is
No?
not, the metal dice were sharp.
Oh yeah.
This is some other dice. I think it was just, I don't know which one it was, but it was more for us because I was trying to like perfect everything. I still have my first molds I did. I know that for sure.
Yeah.
And then now I'm actually really proud of this one. This one doesn't have my logo because
And those have the old logo.
and then you can't really see it, but it doesn't
Yes.
focus. This is my new, if I can send a picture.
I know that at least
Stuff inside.
Okay.
Yeah.
it has the foiling.
The gold foiling. So I had
Come
gotten
on.
a few
I know
sets
you can do it.
from the ladies for a giveaway.
Yeah.
And they had the gold foiling and they were really nice. There was the one set that was gold foil and the other set were blue.
Yeah, these were the blue ones.
Yeah.
Oh no, I sent you two, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One had the gold foiling inside and the other set had the blue inside.
Yeah.
Like the cloud. Well, I guess that's the best way of describing it. And they were nice. They were nice. And you
And for
have
me-
a shop Instagram page, right?
Yeah, and for me, those dice that I sent you, I'm like, I can't believe I sent him like that quality. Like now thinking of what I used to do, I'm like, I can't believe I sent him that. I'm like, no.
And she tends to do that. She gave me a what I could say is like the limited edition type of dice because it was a resin that when you like warm up, it changed color and everything.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you didn't manage to finish the whole set, right? You only did the 2 D20s that I do have.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I do
Yeah,
have
because they're
the original prototypes of those dice.
Mythic
Yeah.
rare.
Yeah, and now I've moved into like in here, there's a liquid core. So every time you roll, you'll see like the shimmery
Oh, wow.
goodness in
Moves.
there.
And now she's back on those because I do have the original copies too. So I am kind of an investor in this business.
Yeah. And then she also has other techniques with inks, like when she has like 4, 5, 6 colors depending on, and they all come together, but at the same time they're their own. They have their own space within the die. We're gonna send you guys pictures so you can put it in the video if you guys want.
Sure,
But-
we'll overlay it.
Right
Yeah,
now,
that's great.
yeah. But
So
right
is-
now, yeah.
Sorry,
Sorry.
is Liquid Nebula like how to find your dice shop?
Yeah, the Instagram page is liquid nebula _shop, and then our website is liquid-nebula.com.
.com.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you gonna say, Sally?
That other than me sending you pictures, what was the other thing?
You totally drew a blank.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It was something like super quick, but it was I forgot. Jesus Christ.
Well, they're in the process. If I do manage to
Oh, the
convince
logo.
them-
Yeah,
Oh.
you said process. You said process. That reminded me. We have a new mold coming in super soon with our new logo, but hopefully it's gonna come before March. Crossing fingers. We're setting that date because it's
Yeah.
been a long process.
She's the one who designed
The logo.
the logo, and we're trying to keep everything. She does graphic design and manages the shop, and I make them and sand them and polish them. She inks them and make sure everything gets there on time. So it's
I just rolled them.
What teamwork?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to convince them to buy the resin mold so we can do dice towers too. So that way we can have the whole resin family complete together.
Yeah, you also said dice holders, like the tiny dice holders. We
Yep.
can absolutely do those, and yeah, it's all a process, and it's
Yeah. And there's a lot of ideas coming out for the shop, and I'm pretty excited.
that's why the
It's a lot
shop.
of it's a lot of work, but it's fun seeing like so many dice. Like I used to hoard a lot of dice, and I had to give them up and sell them. But
Ah, what a problem.
All right, cool. Well,
yeah.
so I had something I wanted to ask you guys about because the last time I talked to Sally on Monday, Sally and Tiff on Monday, it came up, and she had mentioned that while she only has one game store in her, I mean she has two, but one's for Warhammer. Will has an ample number of game stores in his area. So my original experiences in game stores were the way I put it, like much like the Simpsons comic book store owner, where he would be condescending to his customers and not very friendly. That was my original experience in game stores, where they were annoyed that you came in and they were trying to game and you interrupted their game to, how dare you try to buy something from me, you know? So what were your guys's, and it sounds like, Sally, you had a really good experience in your first experience. Will, have you ever had any of those experiences? Because I still to this day have gone into shops where I've had that.
Well, for me,
Go first.
the
What?
original store that I did go to was the one that pushed me into being a DM, because they since it was mostly a Magic the Gathering shop, the card shop, they did have all the products, but Magic the Gathering was like the big seller for that store. And that's when Ravnica got announced, the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica. And they were really excited because, you know, a lot of people were coming to it, and there's like, we need someone that knows D&D or likes tabletop games and wants to do it. So they kind of gave me a little bit of a discount. So it was like $5 off the book instead of the traditional 60, 55. Ooh, big savings, but you know, $5 is $5. And that's what they pushed me to. And they kind of pushed me into that. And I did enjoy. I run a game in the store and they were really happy. They told me like, we got the back room or the back two table for you guys. If you need anything else, just let us know. And there was a really big support when I started out DMing. Then when that store closed down due to, you know, business decisions and everything that does happen, all the other stores that saw me there, they're like, oh, we do have a group that comes another day, but you're more than welcome to come. And if you need anything, like saving the space, just let us know. And just like that, you know, like, oh, we got the 2 tables just for you guys so you can sit down. How big is the group? Like 10, 20 people? Like, oh, maybe not here. Maybe you can do something else. But yeah, they were really friendly. They try to push the dynamic of having people play there. And they actually got really excited to see like the whole group going there. And almost every single time, I don't know why, you know, people had those bad rolls that apparently the first thing that they think is, oh, I'm in a game shop. Let me just buy more dice. That will solve my problem. And, you know, at least they guaranteed like 3-5 dice set being sold that day every time we had a game there. And the dynamics was really good. They didn't have any problem at all with us. Maybe the other players around that they were trying to play card games, that they were like, oh, you know, this big group is taking all the tables, so we can't play a card game for 2 people, but we need 5 tables to put our bags and everything. It's like, okay, you know, sucks to be you, I guess. But all around, everybody enjoyed it. Like, didn't receive any complaints. People actually approached me, people that I never seen in my life, that they would newer talk to me. They were like, "Oh, you're the guy that run the games. Can you run another game so we can add ourselves to us?" Like, nah, man, I'm full. I can't. No more. So it was like it was really positive in terms of the general consensus of having people open the doors or allow us to be able to play and all that. But when the group got really big, because I did a crazy 30 people group, I was the only DM, so I had 30 people. Everybody, wanted to play at the same time. It was all newbies, so it was, like a TED Talk experience that I didn't think how big the group was. That was the only part that I think I received some negative feedback, because there was 30 people stuck in one little 6-foot table trying to roll dice to do everything. So we took over the store in a way.
Wow, that is crazy. Sally, you got a really good game store owner. You said he's been playing for a really long time. Did you say he's the one that introduced you to the game the first time?
Yep. We sat down, like, it was after Hurricane Maria, but it was like a couple of months after, like, or a month. I know Stranger Things was coming out for Halloween or something. We still didn't have any power. And so everything was coming in together, like everything was aligning just right. And I decided, you know what? I think I sold some Pokemon cards or something, and I came up with my own money at that time, where it was like pretty harsh. I didn't have a job. She wasn't working, although she had the job, but yeah, everything was like shut down, even a month after. And so I said, oh, you know what? I just need to try this. And we sat down, I bought everything, and we sat for at least a few hours, him explaining everything to me, and to see what type of character I would like, how Lost Mine of Fandelver was like, and the dice. He was explaining the dice to me, and it was like super amazing. And he was telling anecdotes of his games and how everything happened, who wrote good, who wrote bad, and it was like, I'm home. I don't need anything else. And she was at the store, but she was talking to his wife, who's the other owner, and they were looking at us like we were crazy, because I was like it looked like we were gossiping with my face expressions and how much he was talking, but it was of how amazed I was. And then I told her everything that he told me. So that was another few hours. And then
they're very welcoming. I mean,
yeah,
we've been there from like day one since they opened.
Yeah.
So we became really good friends.
Super good friends until this day. Like, we love each other so much. We consider them family. And every time we talk about anything, D&D always comes up, and we talk about that. We're in a chat with other people from the store that they actually enjoy talking about D&D as well. They're MTG players, like Magic the Gathering players at most, but they also love D&D. And your experience with him was the same.
Yeah, they were very welcome, and I always hang out with her, and
Yeah.
she was always pushing me to do things, and she was always like very supportive.
Yeah.
Kind of mom-like, and they're like, oh, you could do this and you could do that, and maybe one day you could like put the dice in our shop and blah blah. So it was a really good experience with them. Like,
always.
I think that the game stores, it's such a difficult business to be successful in, and and it seems like they open and they close just about as fast. They're just coming and going constantly. And people don't realize the successful game store owners I know work basically 7 days a week. And I think there's a lot of fantasy that goes on in most gamers' head about having their own store, because like, oh, I'll be around gaming all the time, but it is a lot of work to stay ahead of the game, and so hats off to those guys, and hats off especially to the ones that make it such an incredible experience, because it is a tough job. And especially with gamers, I think when you look back at like when I got my start, you know, it was always kind of like the introverted outcasts who were playing. And as time has gone on, I think everybody finds a little piece of something in gaming that is you know, kind of helps them through their week to get to that weekend where they can let loose, you know. And it's such a wide variety of people that game store owners have to be, you know, I kind of feel like they have to be a part kind of you know, what is that called? Not a wedding organizer, but somebody who kind of like organizes events for a, you know,
Party planner.
yeah, like you know, you got to make it friendly for everybody, you know. And sometimes that's really hard to do when there are conflicts between people, because it's invariably it'll happen, you know. My old game store, we had 5 DMs and every table had like 10 people at it. And there were people that we would have to move from one table to another because they just didn't get along with somebody else, and you had to separate them, you know. And it was definitely a real, when you get that many people in the store at once, it's a juggling act, and those game store owners have to deal with a lot. So hats off to them anyway. But we got a few minutes left. We just have a few minutes left. So what would you guys say? What would you guys, from your experience, say is Puerto Rico's mark on the game? Like, what do you guys think you do differently than somebody, say, in England would do, or with the game, or elsewhere? It could be your ritual feasts with the beer. It could be about anything. What do you say?
Most definitely the food. Like, if you come to Puerto Rico, you come for the food and the people, because we're super welcoming and everybody's friendly. And
Most of us.
yeah, 99.5 of us are super welcoming. Like,
Yeah, but it's all about the food here. Like
Yeah.
every quarter, there's like some good food and new restaurants. And they're inventing like some. It's good food,
yeah,
but they're always trying to invent something new. Like,
yeah,
oh, let's do this and let's open a store, or like lemonades are popular. Let's open lemonade stands, or I don't know, something like that. But it's always revolving around food.
And beer.
Food is a big thing, and beers. So I think that's fine. Like, I don't know.
and yeah, and holidays. We do have a lot of holidays. Like I told you, Matt. Around Christmas it gets crazy. like I told you, like, we have the longest Christmas ever, although people work, but we celebrate Christmas since Thanksgiving until mid-January, and we do a lot of gatherings, and we're always partying or doing something. Like, we're always having a good time with the people we love. And
there's always food, always, no matter
Yeah,
where
it
you're
doesn't
at,
matter.
no matter where you're at, unless even if it's a stupid pizza, pizza's not stupid, sorry.
yeah,
But even if it's like something as simple as pizza or like wings or something small, but everything revolves around food. So I think food and like playing D&D, I guess it's kind of like,
yeah, because we used to do a lot of board game nights.
yeah.
And that then transitioned into D&D. So we already did that, and it always revolved around food. And then we started trying the beers, and artisan crafted beers and microbreweries and stuff
Yeah,
like
because
that.
that became really big after
Hurricane, yeah.
Hurricane Maria
Yeah.
too. Like, we had some beers, like I was in Oregon and I was in Florida. Like, the variety of beer is pretty big, especially in
Same.
Oregon with the microbreweries. And I'm like, I don't have that here. So when they started bringing beers, I was like, oh, this is good now. Like, now
Yeah.
we have a lot of different kinds of beers, and we're always trying new things and new food. Like, when I used to live here when I was 10, like, we
Mhm.
have more food now, more variety,
Yeah.
more different kinds of cuts of meats, more I guess it's more experimental foods. I
Yeah,
guess,
it's a lot.
sort
We
of.
have a lot of variety
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, like there's kimchi now. You couldn't find that 10 years ago, or even maybe 5 years ago. And I'm like, it kind of sucked for me at least, or like I'm like, I can't find this, or I can't find a certain spice that,
Yeah, that you would like to incorporate into your food.
yeah. But now it's a
We
little bit different, so it's a little bit.
in Puerto Rico, like in Puerto Rican history, when the prohibition became a thing, we always had a saying with the 3 Bs. I'm gonna say in Spanish and then explain it. Baile, botella, baraja, and that's dancing, bottles, and that means beer or rum,
Drink.
or drinks, and baraja means like games, like card games. And that was the thing that the government used to use to appease us, and that became part of our culture. And it became such a thing that when the prohibition happened, I think this island, I think there's a dark spot in our history when that happened in our island. But it was that, and that became part of ourselves, and it has come, gone through generations until now, where everything is celebrated with food, drinks, and everybody dances, and everything is about music as well. So yeah, I think it's that transition very well from our cultural foundation into our games and into who we are today.
Yeah, we're even trying to find how to incorporate like our
Puerto Rican stuff.
Puerto Rican stuff into our campaigns. Like the coqui is a national frog from here, so like give it national animal.
Yeah.
So we're trying to incorporate to see how we can make our homebrew like
because if we could
Puerto Rico campaign, or like with the Tainos, that'll be cool.
Because we can make a variation of the grungs and make him a coqui.
Yeah,
that would be amazing. Or have coquito, that's better than eggnog. Chef's kiss. Never. Yeah, I'm so sorry, guys, but I'm gonna hate on eggnog and I'm gonna push coquito all the way. So yeah, I would love to incorporate coquito. Huh?
I have yet to try Coquito.
Coquito.
It's a coconut-based drink. It's a literally it's a Puerto Rican eggnog. It's made with coconut cream, coconut milk, evaporated milk, a lot of rum, and cinnamon.
Yeah.
If you think eggnog is good, wait till you try coquito. So coquito is the deity level is God is level 20 character. Eggnog is level 2 character. So there's a big difference.
Wow. You're gonna have to share the recipe, like type it out and send it to me, and I'll put it and I'll inset it in the screen so everyone can enjoy. But you gotta get like the amounts of each.
Oh yeah, I will. Oh, I will.
Yeah, send that on over. We'll share that.
Because the big secret for that is that coquito can have multiple flavors. Eggnog tends to be just one flavor. So that's like the big secret to coquito too.
Yeah, a lot of people, like we started with a regular coconut coquito, and of course here they like to invent a lot of things. So there's like hazelnut, like
almond
cake, almond, pistachio. There's like all kinds of flavor. I'm like, it's not the original one, but they're pretty good. Like the almond one is like delicious.
Some people add ice cream, so it tastes super creamy.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
But yeah, we're always trying to like, I guess, going back to the question, I guess our roots, we try to incorporate like the food and whatnot. So.
And I think I've said this in a previous video, but it sounds like a source book in the making.
Yes.
At least from my side, the food, the culture, it's something that we add to the games, at least indirectly. Puerto Rico has a lot of mythology in terms of like fantastical creatures or belief that they have. The traditional like witch hunt that happened here in terms of the island. So el chupacabra, la gárgola, like there's a different type of monsters already in the book, but in Puerto Rico they give it like another level, like it's a higher being in terms of the story or the local news.
La Llorona.
So we're talking like Bigfoot and Loch Ness monster. You know, those type of creatures that are already like and maybe in the lore in Dungeons and Dragons. Then we also do have that from Puerto Rico. And one thing that the culture is like actively or just passively too, they're really competitive. So you would see indirectly how every single player will try to be the one that does the best. They're not maxing, you know, trying to be the best in one type of thing, but you will see the competition between them to slowly one up each other, you know, try to be better in the role playing. And it's good because the players get better at being players as their characters instead of just saying, oh, I'm so good because I bought the most expensive dice. That's not how they play. They play that I can role play my character better than you or something like that. So it's something that also I indirectly get from our side of the culture into the games. And that's how many of them get hooked and want to keep playing and want to keep going at it over and over and over with different characters, with different ideas, because they want to push their own limits to try to see if they can be like competitive enough to be like the best player or best DM or something like that.
Awesome. I think this has been an amazing time, and I want to thank you guys for coming on. You know, I know I'm real excited to run something for Ashley. So you guys can send me, don't say anything out loud, but if you have any ideas that you want, that you think Ashley and the group of stalwart adventurers we bring around her would be a challenge for them to overcome, send me some ideas. And because one of the things I mentioned at the beginning, we'll talk more about this, we're talking about recording her sessions, and you get to see her develop as a player and grow and move towards becoming a DM herself, which is her goal. So,
Yeah.
Yes.
It's quite a process.
It is. It's gonna be fun though. But she's armed with books now, and she will soon have the knowledge. But
I'm sure she's gonna get the bite rather soon than later. I think she'll be like halfway through the game saying, "No, I want to DM now. I'll DM." Now.
I think Dragonlance might have to be
now.
in the mix. Yeah, I think Dragonlance might have to be in the mix.
Exactly. I plan on being a mighty tender.
Oh,
And then a DM.
Nice.
There you go.
Oh, that is so exciting.
We'll work something up for sure. We will work something up for sure. But
yeah,
thank you guys so much.
Been great hearing from everybody here today.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. Something we're also going to do, if you guys, I know I bounced it off a few of you, but we had just done a show on players in the Middle East, and we were going to have one of them on, but Ashley had the great idea of, rather than doing it that way, we'll have a show where we bring all the gamers worldwide on together, and it's kind of a collective show rather than them piggybacking on the next show. So it gives everyone their own little stage appearance, and then together we can come out and have that reunion show where you get to meet some folks from around the world. So I'm really looking forward to that. And but until then, Ashley.
Yes.
Am I pointing the right way? There we go. Wish her luck on her brave adventures.
Woo, good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you.
May the worlds be ever in your favor.
Yes.
It's going to be good.
I second that.
It's going to be real good. But thank you guys so much. And again, you can find the Liquid Nebula shop on Instagram at liquidnebula_shop. And then you've got their store, which is liquid-nebula?
Yes.
But
we have
dash as a signal.
We had to do it like that. It was just complicated.
Yeah.
Look at me go though. But I remember it's not hard to remember.
Yeah.
And then you have Will. If you're ever in San Juan and you're looking for a game, he will be your man.
Mm-hmm.
So
find me at Dizzy Diabetic, just in case.
Oh yes, and you can find him on Instagram at Dizzy Diabetic. Yes, thank you for reminding me. And then Sally, you can find her miniature painting at Liquid Nebula, just
Yeah,
without the underscore
Just
shop.
for Nebula.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
So check it out.
you so much.
Until next time, thank you guys all. We
No,
will.
thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm. If you like what we do here on the channel, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell because it really helps us out.